Well, hey everyone, this is Taylor. I hope you've been enjoying these Kingdom Company devotionals that we try to release midweek. We've been going through the book of John on the weekends, and we've gotten up to John chapter 5 already. So if you aren't caught up, then go watch our sermons on our website or watch the other devos that we've been posting. But actually today we're in John chapter 6, and there's a lot that happens in John chapter 6. And we're not going to hit it all today, so if you want, I would encourage you after this devotional today just to go and read the whole thing so you can see just context and where we are in the story. But we're going to pick up in John chapter 6, verse 16 today, and it's the famous section of Jesus walking on water. But I got to tell you what happens before. You see, before the story is where Jesus feeds the 5,000, and most people believe that that was 5,000 men, so there was potentially 10 to 15,000 people there, where Jesus fed this amount of people with just such a small amount of food. It was such an incredible miracle that he did in his ministry, and such an incredible thing that his disciples actually got to witness. But what's crazy is right after this spiritual victory, we see something that happens next. We see this next story of Jesus walking on the water. So we pick it up in verse 16 of chapter 6. And it says, "When evening came, his disciples went down to the lake, where they got into a boat and set off across the lake for Capernaum." Now, what's interesting is the story also pops up in other places in the Gospels. Matthew 14, it actually details it a little bit more. And we find out that it says Jesus makes his disciples get into the boat, which is kind of interesting because here it just shows that, yeah, they got into the boat, but Matthew 14 says he made them. So what we get is this picture of this incredible spiritual victory that Jesus and his disciples had with feeding the 5,000. But right away, Jesus says, all right, get in the boat. We're going to what's next. And, I don't know if you've had spiritual victories in your life. I'm willing to bet you have. I'm hoping you have. I know some of you haven't really seen a miracle of people, of someone feeding 5,000, but there's been awesome spiritual victories and miracles happening in your life. Some of you, maybe you've gotten baptized. Maybe some of you cut some type of sin out of your life. Maybe some of you started hanging out with a good friend group. You've got surrounded by a good community. You've seen these incredible spiritual victories take place. But what you need to know is that I think Jesus is asking you, just like he told his disciples here, to get into the boat and let's see what's next. So often we can get comfortable with where we're at, but I think Jesus is constantly trying to take us to new territory, to new directions, to see new spiritual victories happen in our life. So it says this, and continuing verse 17, it says, "By now it was dark, and Jesus had not yet joined them." Verse 18 says, "A strong wind was blowing, and the waters grew rough. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus approaching the boat, walking on the water, and they were frightened. But he said to them, 'It is I, don't be afraid.' Then they were willing to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat reached the shore where they were heading." You see, they were in this boat, and Jesus wasn't with them. And it says that they saw this guy walking out on the water, and they were frightened, all right? It even says they saw Jesus approaching the boat, and they were frightened. What's interesting is we've heard this story. We're like, yeah, Jesus, he's God. He can walk in the water, no big deal. But you see, the disciples had never seen that before. You see, Jesus was doing something new in their life. And because he was doing something new, it made them afraid. And what I want to let you know is that Jesus wants to take you somewhere new, but don't think it's going to be easy, honestly. Sometimes it's probably going to be kind of scary. He's going to do some new things in our life that we aren't used to, and we are going to be afraid. But what I want you to know is that I think those are the times that grow us. You see, later on, Matthew 14, actually earlier on, you can go read that, I already referenced it. We see this is where Peter says, hey, send me out. Peter starts walking on the water. He gets out of his comfort zone. He gets out of the boat, and he starts doing things that he never knew that was possible before. He actually walks on the water. And I think that as Jesus acts in our life, and as he leads us to different places, sometimes we have to initiate that, but ultimately, we have to get out of our comfort zone. Jesus wants us to take us to new places. So as I wrap this up, I think it's encouraging that you guys have probably had spiritual victories. I've already given a list. There's so many more. But what I want you to know is that Jesus isn't done with you. He doesn't want you to get comfortable where you're at. You see, I think familiarity is the greatest enemy of faith. It's not fear. When we're familiar, when we're comfortable where we're at, we're going to get stuck. And I think that's going to distance ourselves from God. Jesus wants to take us to new places. Let's trust in him. Let's lean in with him. After this, finish reading John 6. Maybe go to Matthew 14, read that. But really today, spend time with the Lord and say, Lord, you've taken me to amazing places before. You've done incredible victories in my life, but I know you're not done with me. Where do you want to take me now? What do you want me to do now? I don't know what that is in your life, but I know he's not done. He wants to take you from victory to victory. Let's trust in that. It might be scary, but let's act in faith. We love you guys. We hope you join us this weekend.